What a Strange Little Colt. Written by Linwood. Chapter 12. Onward and Upward, Part 2. A little later, Sandy Hills couldn't help but to crane her neck as the now diminished party made their way up to the building that headquartered the very government institution she worked for. It towered above the street, staring down at passerbys with tall, thin, presumptuous-looking windows inserted into gray stone. Even its doorway imposed, arching far over her head and holding two medieval-looking oaken doors. She didn't like it one bit.
Much less welcoming than our quaint little Ponyville office.
Come in, the king said, ushering them to the doors. We haven't much time before our meeting with the regional manager. Then he kicked herself mentally and hurried inside.
Focus. You've got a job to do.
The lobby was a good deal fancier than the building's exterior, but no less imposing. The air was quiet and proper, spiced with polite conversations and the scratching of pens on paper. The front desk, apparently made of hoof-carved mahogany, stretched across the entire far wall beneath the exquisite mural of Celestia herself, and housed several secretaries. Tall, smooth pillars held up an arched ceiling far above her head and created enough space for her to comfortably fly. Had she chosen to do so, it would have been easy for her to go all the way to the ceiling and inspect the massive map of Equestria they had painted up there in meticulous detail, with all the ministry's various offices marked: Manhattan, Los Pegasus, Baltimore, and there, the simple dot for Ponyville. It looked tiny next to Camelot's bright, ornate star. She imagined flying up to look closer would result in a lost job and an unfriendly escort out the front door, though. Looking led them a short way into the lobby before holding up a hoof to stop them and walking up to the front desk alone. He said something she couldn't make out and flashed that shiny golden badge at the secretary, whose eyes widened before nodding quickly and sharply. The two had a fast pace back and forth for a minute, then looking turned around and strode back to the group. All right, all. Here's how it's going to be done. I'm going to take Gabriel in for assessment and a report. The unicorn turned to her. Then I'll come down and get you, Miss Hills, and they'll do the same for you. Sandy frowned.
What? Why would the manager be meeting us like that? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, Miss Hills. I wasn't the one who set it up. If you like, I can go back and file an official complaint. Her eyes widened.
No, that sounds fine.
Sandy nodded, feeling like her head was full of cotton.
Spike and I can wait here, in the lobby.
She supposed the Camelot branch just did things differently. Wonderful, the Stanley said with a warm smile. Come along, little one. The Colt snorted and followed in his trail, and the two disappeared through one of the doorways to either side of the massive, overly ornate front desk. Sandy stood for a moment, staring at the gold-trimmed door they had just disappeared through, before shaking her head and following Spike to one of the lobby's many benches. They had plush velvet covers, of course. The two made themselves comfortable, but Sandy raised an eyebrow when Spike set his chin onto his palms and sighed.
What's wrong?
Twilight went to the library without me.
He snorted a little, shooting a small jet of green flame from his snout.
Ah!
Sandy pulled back with a little gasp, then blushed and coughed into her hoof.
Excuse me. Are you missing Twilight right now? Are you not supposed to be spending long periods of time away from her?
No, it isn't that.
The little dragon groaned.
It's just... I'm supposed to be her #1 assistant. I'm the one who organizes the library. Rainbow barely even reads. Why would she choose Rainbow and not even want to bring me?
Well, I'm sure she... Actually... Wait, you're right.
The counselor frowned.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I bet it's some kind of element thing, but if that were the case, why would she only bring Rainbow?
Sandy Hills didn't have an answer for that. The conversation withered and died as quickly as it had been born, and the two resigned themselves to bored pony watching. Sandy's heart thudded in her chest as she watched ponies file in and out, their faces most often masks of bored annoyance. What made them read her support so quickly? Did she do something wrong? Did she overstep her boundaries?
I know I have been out of my depth with Gabriel, but I'm doing my best.
She forced the edge of her hoof away from her teeth, reminding herself that that habit was broken, thank you very much.
Lady, what's up with you? You got ants in your mane or something?
Spike said out of the blue, raising an eyebrow.
You look like Twilight when she got all worked up about a friendship lesson.
Oh, it's nothing.
She tried to smile, but couldn't quite get it to reach her eyes, as Spike could tell.
It's a little nerve-wracking to be here.
She waved a hoof to the intricate seal carved into the center of the front desk.
This is the head office of the government ministry I work for. There's an office in Ponyville, but it's,
She craned her neck to look all around the room, blinking at the inset gems and gaudy chains hung on the pillars.
a lot less golden.
Yeah, no kidding. They really went all out with this lobby.
He smirked.
Seems like a little too much to me.
This would be too much in Manhattan.
Sandy said.
The reason I'm feeling a little jittery is because, well, the ponies that work here are my boss's boss's bosses. They run the whole show, and they're the ones that report to the crown.
Ah, okay. I can see how that could be some pressure.
Spike rubbed his frill, looking a little awkward. The expression disappeared a moment later, when he widened his eyes and pointed.
Hey, looking's back, but...
The stallion had his head low as he plodded back towards the two. When she saw him, Sandy stood up right away, ready to join him and go talk to her superiors, but she hesitated. He was biting his lip. He wasn't meeting her gaze. And far more importantly, he came up to them alone. Sandy Hill swallowed.
Where's Gabriel?
The ministry worker only looked her in the eye once he was a foreleg away. A slight wetness there made Sandy's heart skip a beat. He cleared his throat. Miss Hills, I'm afraid I have some bad news. Rainbow Dash turned on a dime, looking at her friend directly.
What do you mean, bad news? What's going on?
Ponies flowed by them as they trotted up the gleaming marble steps to the royal palace, each and every one dressed in exquisite finery and nobleware, the colors bright and piercing in the afternoon sun. Twilight had pulled her off to the side a little ways once they reached the top of the wide, shallowy stairway. The unicorn strained her neck and pulled a deep breath in through her nose.
Rainbow, I'm sorry. I haven't been completely honest with you.
Rainbow's brow furrowed.
What?
She said very quietly.
This doesn't make any sense.
Well, you see, Rainbow, you know how I said the princesses asked me for help?
Yeah?
Well, there's more to the story.
She fidgeted her hoof, drawing an invisible spiral on the cobblestone.
A few weeks ago, Princess Luna tried to perform a certain, very dangerous kind of magic spell, but she messed it up and got hurt. That's the problem that I'm supposed to be helping her with.
Rainbow snorted as a weight sloughed off her shoulders.
That's it? Princess Luna buckled a spell? Twilight, when did you just say so?
The look the unicorn gave her shoved it right back on.
Soul magic is a very dangerous type of magic, Rainbow. She's very sick right now, and in order to save her, we need to return the missing piece of her soul.
I still don't get why this is such a problem.
Rainbow said, frowning.
I mean, I get that this is a big deal, but why not just tell the truth, Twi? Why lie to me?
It's complicated.
She looked more green than purple at this point.
Twilight, are you gonna puke?
I'm okay.
The unicorn said with a little too much force.
I'm fine. Alright?
She rubbed her eyes with a huff.
This spell was supposed to summon a pony, but Luna summoned something else instead. Something potentially dangerous. And now there's a cosmic monster disguised as a pony on the loose, and it has a piece of Luna's soul. It's called an interloper, and it's unique from any other interloper dealt with before.
A cosmic...
Rainbow couldn't quite believe her ears. She took a hoof around it when I made sure everything was in working order.
Twy, did I just hear you right? Did you just say there's an alien around somewhere? Shh, not so loud.
Twilight ran a hoof through her already messy mane, and she threw a wide-eyed glance at the ponies milling past them.
Listen, Rainbow, you have to understand. If we don't get the interloper back to Celestia and destroy it, Luna could die. Will die. Actually, it has a piece of her soul, and it needs to be returned. Okay, yeah.
Rainbow snorted.
Monster. Luna's soul, whatever. Twy, I get that's a big deal, so why are you being so weird? Rainbow, you need to understand.
Rainbow put herself up to the unicorn's face.
Spit it out, Twilight.
Her friend snorted and stamped a hoof.
Rainbow, Luna performed the spell the week before last on Tuesday night. What?
Rainbow waved a hoof.
Twilight, what the hey does that have to do with anything? Think. What happened that Wednesday morning? What? I don't know, Twy. How am I supposed to remember that?
Rainbow saw a top-hatted stallion pause to look at her over from Twilight's shoulder. The hot-faced mare didn't care one bit. Her friend was acting weird and refused to tell her why. For Celestia's sake, what did anything have to do with a day almost 2 weeks ago?
Tartarus, so much has happened since then.
Her life had been downright non-stop. Once she thought about it, the only reason she felt any energy at all right now was because of that day off at the park with Gabe. Gabe, the fantastically strange Colt who had upended the last couple of weeks in her life just by being around. Gabe, who appeared as if from nowhere and was known by no pony. Gabe, who she found Wednesday morning. Twilight looked her in the eye and spoke with a hoof slightly raised off the ground, halfway towards her chest. She looked ready to bolt.
Rainbow, it's him. No.
Rainbow said. She stamped her hoof.
No, that's not right. I'm sure of it. Rainbow, No!
She thrust herself into Twilight's face.
It can't be Gabe. Listen to me, Dash. You listen to me. He's not some sort of superpowered soul-sucking alien. If anything, he's the world's greenest doormat. Do you have any idea what he's been through?
She jabbed her hoof into the unicorn's chest, completely unfazed by the small crowd gathering around the two.
He doesn't deserve to be called a monster just for being different. Listen!
Twilight shouted. Rainbow blinked and took a step back.
Rainbow, I'm sorry, but that Colt is not who you think he is. Lucky and I tracked the magic to Ponyville. I saw the manifestation site. I saw the green feather there.
And let her step forward.
You even said so yourself. Gabe's weird. He doesn't fit. He doesn't belong. And it's because he's not a he. He's an it. Look at what happened to that little filly. I don't.
Rainbow swallowed.
But he's such a good... he means well. He wasn't trying. He didn't want to hurt any pony.
She huffed out an unsteady breath.
He justs once.
Twilight took another step.
These interlopers can be very dangerous, Rainbow. They could be anything, including something that is very, very good at wearing the skin of a cute little Pegasus colt.
The crowd's murmurs grew to gasp and confused rabble. Rainbow felt Twilight's nose brush against her own as she glared her in the eye.
I am trying to help you, Dash. Even if by some universally infinitesimal chance that thing is not malicious, we're still gonna have to take it to Celestia and put it down. We have to save Luna.
Rainbow saw a flicker of flame jump through Twilight's mane and balked. Her head felt light, and the judging eyes gathering around the duo didn't help one bit. Her heart was beating far too quickly, and she found herself struggling for breath. Rainbow trusted Twilight with her life, but this? It didn't make any sense. Or maybe it did. That home of his, that burning city, those strange creatures. They aren't really across the ocean, are they? Her head began to spin. No, they're from farther away. They were from some strange land, some strange torn-apart Tartarus of a land, full of strange creatures with strange weapons that fought strange wars against each other and burnt their own cities to the ground. That place had produced that being that called itself Gabriel. The being that had hard eyes and a marred body. The being that had broken a little filly's leg without hesitation. The being that had killed. But that being that also appreciated a sunny day. It devoured hay dogs, even if it had a weird name for them. It liked to draw and screw around with its friends and make smart-ass remarks. It was guilty over things it had done and was good at math and terrified of thunder and he was not a monster. He may have been messed up, but he wasn't a monster. Rainbow knew in her pounding, aching heart that that kid was not the evil that Twilight was looking for. He was just someone tired and scarred by an unfair life. And through it all, Princess Luna had been slowly dying. They had to save her. She was a princess of Equestria, Celestia's sister. They had to. There was no way they couldn't. If Princess Luna was really going to die without the peace of her soul, what choice did she have? What would Rarity and Applejack and Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy say if they didn't? What would her parents think of her if she was the one who failed to save a princess?
All we have to do is kill a kid who I promised to look out for. The kid who I promised to protect. The kid who never got to say whether he was here or not. The kid who doesn't deserve it.
Rainbow's face hardened.
No.
She said.
Dash? No.
The mare snorted.
I'm not just giving him up. There has to be some sort of other way.
Her throat closed up and she had to force it back open.
He doesn't need to die. We can figure something out. Ask the princesses for help or something. We can work it out, but I won't let you take him.
Twilight's face fell, and when she spoke, it was much, much softer.
Rainbow, I'm not the one who was supposed to take him,
She said.
Why do you think I brought you out here?
Rainbow's eyes widened and her mouth opened as if she was going to speak. Then it closed and she spread her wings.
Rainbow, wait, you need to...
Twilight shielded herself with a hoof as the Pegasus rocketed herself in the air. The crowd of ponies gathered around them burst into surprised cries and shouts, but they were already fading behind her, swallowed in the sound of rushing wind alongside a certain unicorn's desperate shouts.
What? What happened?
Sandy Hill stood her head and shuffled her wings against her back, glancing at Spike over her shoulder. He only looked up at her with those big green eyes and shrugged as he tapped his claws together. The counselor looked back to Looking Glass.
What happened?
The unicorn took a few deep breaths through his closed-lipped muzzle and swallowed. There's no easy way to put this, Miss Hills. I'll just tell you. We had our meeting with the ministry's regional manager.
And?
The question burst out of her. She felt full of anxious energy, manic, sick, and exhausted all at once.
What'd they say?
Well, before he gave a verdict, he listened to Gabriel tell his story. The Colt recounted it all, right from the moment he woke up at the hospital. He bit his lip. And then, well, he made a decision.
What?
Sandy had to consciously keep her shattering the Grand Lobby's proper quietness.
That doesn't make any sense at all. He wouldn't even want to hear my professional report?
Evidently not, Looking said with a sigh. It seems that he heard what he needed to hear. I am to report to you that as of right now, you are no longer assigned to Gabriel's case. All decisions you've made regarding Gabriel's care are marked null and void, and you have been ordered to return to your station in Ponyville. He's to be assessed and looked after here in Canterlot. Her mouth opened and closed. The tap-tap of hoof on marble seemed to echo through the towering space, fracturing and multiplying, becoming a barrage. She couldn't breathe. I'm afraid that's just the way it is, Miss Hills. It's out of my hooves. Looking Glass twisted his hoof, grinding its tip against the groove in the white tile floor. He spoke in a low, quiet voice, as if he was trying to let somebody know that their mother had just passed away, but didn't want them to make a fuss in public.
What? How can they do this?
Daniels pressed her hoof to her chest.
Was it my report? Do they think I didn't do a good enough job?
The unicorn looked helpless. I don't know. He didn't say. He only told me to report his decision to you. He stepped forward and gingerly set his hoof on her shoulder. I know that this Colt meant something to you, and I wish I was the pony making the decision. But I'm not. I'm sorry. She blinked with the jerky, uneven gait of a rusted typewriter.
I didn't.
The words refused to assemble in her brain. It felt like a million things were bouncing around her head all at once, mashing into each other. The world began to blur. You had better go outside now, said looking. I need to return to the Colt again. I'm sorry. He made a half-hearted smile and turned around to trot away.
But I...
Sandy blinked hard and wiped a hoof at her eyes.
What?
She sniffled, talking to nobody in a quiet voice.
What did I do?
The cold, spacious lobby provided no answer.
Hey, we had...
The mare felt the claw wrap around her hoof.
Miss Hills, we had better go.
She nodded, blinking hard and swallowing, but the tears didn't stop. She couldn't see. They made it hard to follow Spike. Why was it so hard? What did she do wrong? She ducked her head low and tried to look away as they passed other ponies in the lobby, but she knew they saw her.
I must look pathetic.
Spike led her out into the afternoon sun, but it no longer brightened her day. Instead, it shone far too harshly into her eyes, forcing her to squint. There were more ponies out here. Too many eyes. Were they all looking at her? Were they whispering to each other as they watched a full-grown mare get led through the street by a baby dragon? Were they talking about how awful she looked? Sandy gulped down a sob and squeezed her eyes shut, focusing on following where the claw led. It felt like she was coming apart at the seams.
Alright, let's just, let's take a breather here, okay?
She gently bumped up against something at shin height, smooth metal, warmed by the afternoon sun.
What? Uh-huh.
It's a bench, Miss Hills.
Came Spike's voice from somewhere beside her.
I thought we could wait for Twilight and Rainbow Dash here.
Sandy sniffled and nodded, rubbing the back of her hoof across her snout.
Yeah, that's a good idea,
She whispered. The mare climbed onto the bench's curved metal slats, flopped onto her belly, and buried her face into her hooves. She hoped no pony was listening to her choked, shuddering sobs. Spike swallowed. His throat closed up when he looked at the mare crying into her hooves on the street side's bright purple bench. Its color shone with confidence in the midday light, and the bench flaunted it, showing off its fanciful curves and superior crest ponyship. Just like everything else in Camelot, it practically glowed with elegance and grace. The exact opposite of the mare breaking down atop of it. Her mane stuck out in all directions, bobbing gently with every shudder. She huddled into a small shape as she could manage, keeping her legs tucked tightly under her and her tail swept around her side. The mare sniffled and croaked, desperately fighting to a losing battle against her emotions. Spike raised a claw, then paused. His claw tips hovered just above the matted fur on Miss Hill's foreleg. It was the color of desert dunes.
Hey!
Spike's head whipped around before he even recognized the voice, only to be buffeted by a snap of wind. He shielded his face as the Pegasus nearly crash-landed in the middle of the street, stumbling into a panic run towards him.
Gah!
The fact that it was Rainbow didn't reach him until she stood a hoof's width away from his face, her muzzle up close and personal. He stumbled back, arms held up against a waggling defense, and fell onto his backside.
Spike!
Rainbow shouted.
Where is he? What? Who?
Spike blinked and looked at the Pegasus, really seeing her for the first time.
Where's Twilight?
For some unholy reason, the questions seemed to enrage Rainbow even more. She growled.
Spike, where is that slimy, snaky little bureaucrat? Huh?
Spike managed, still dumbfounded.
Are you talking about the RBI dude? The what?
Both of them jumped out of their skin at the cry and snapped their heads around to the bench. Sandy Hill's head stuck straight up, her mane everywhere. Her eyes glowed red, and matted streaks of tear-soaked fur covered her face. She sniffled. Everyone took a step back.
Celestia Hills, you look like absolute. Spike?
Sandy said.
What did you say?
About looking? He's an RBI agent. You know he works for the Rural Bureau, but you guys already knew that, right?
Rainbow Dash and Sandy Hills both fixed gaping looks at him.
Right?
A blinding flash of lavender-tinted light turned all their heads. Twilight appeared a short way down the street, in front of the Ministry building. She whipped her head around and spotted them an instant later, galloping towards them.
Rainbow!
Twilight?
Sadie said with Spike.
Twilight.
Rainbow lowered her head and glared. She was out of breath by the time she skidded to stop.
Rainbow, listen to me. I'm sorry, really, but it's out of our hooves. Looking will have it well on the way to the palace by now.
Where is he now, Twilight?
Rainbow snapped.
Where's that slimy ass?
Spike's eyes widened and he took a stumbling step back. He had never seen Rainbow lose her cool like this. What was going on?
Twi?
Spike said with a timid voice.
What has looking done with Gabe? What's happening?
Said Sandy considerably less timidly.
It's complicated, No, it's not.
Rainbow cried.
Sandy, Twilight and Looking Glass are trying to kill Gabe. What?
Sandy sprang to her hooves, tripping a little as she raced off to the bench.
What? It's not that simple.
Twilight said, starting to sound desperate.
That thing's not really a pony.
Rainbow snarled.
It doesn't matter. What are you talking about? That's insane.
Sandy clutched her head.
I mean, Gabriel's not a pony. It's something else.
Twilight stepped past Rainbow, putting herself squarely in front of the shocked-looking counselor.
It was summoned into this world by dark, forbidden magic. It only looks like a pony. What?
Twilight's trying to scare you,
Rainbow said, butting in. The three of them were muzzle to muzzle now.
That kid's no monster, and stop calling him an it.
Not a monster. It snapped a filly's leg in half without hesitating for Celestia's sake.
Twilight scoffed.
Rainbow, I'm trying to show you the truth. Stop acting like an idiot.
Spike's mouth dropped open. Twilight had complained about Rainbow acting brash in the past, sure, but this was going so far as to insult her? This day wasn't looking up. That much was for certain. Rainbow's face screwed up and a blush spread across her face, but Sandy beat her to the punch.
That was in self-defense, Twilight. I know it. That filly hit him in the head while he wasn't looking.
Her face darkened.
What exactly is going on here?
Twilight!
The counselor put a tip of her hoof to Rainbow's lips.
I want to hear it from her.
Rainbow scowled but kept her mouth shut, and two bigger eyes fixed their looks on Twilight. Spike did too. She snorted.
About time somebody kept a level head,
she said, returning Dash's toxic glare for a moment before turning her head to the other mare.
Sandy, Gabriel is something what we call an interloper. Old outlaw magic summoned it to this world, and like the other interlope summoned here in the past, it's very, very dangerous. What? Gabriel isn't a real pony?
Twilight shook her head.
No, it isn't.
Sandy's eyes widened, a mess of emotions flashing across her face.
But his past, his home, his sister, was that a lie? Did he lie?
Twilight continued.
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. More importantly, because of the interloper, Princess Luna is in grave danger. Princess Luna?
Then he took a step back.
What? How? What does she have to do with this? She's the original summoner.
Twilight said, her voice low.
When she cast the spell, it ripped out a part of her soul, and, well, we need to destroy the vessel to get it back.
Rainbow looked about, ready to blow a gasket, but Sandy held a hoof across her front and cleared her throat.
Will she die if we don't? Yes.
Twilight nodded.
I don't know how soon, but soon. We need to move quickly. This can't be right.
The counselor muttered.
This isn't right. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. So let me get this straight.
Sandy said, sounding unsteady.
You are going to kill Gabriel, even though he didn't choose to be summoned here, and hasn't acted anything like these other interlopers because the princess needs to be saved? Yes.
Twilight said.
I'm sorry you got so attached to it, but... Do you call him things like vessel and it because that makes it easier?
Twilight blinked.
What? Well, is it?
The unicorn sputtered as she tried to form an answer.
I don't really. I'm just telling you the truth. I want you to be aware of what you're doing, Twilight Sparkle.
Sandy said, her voice shifted into something downright venomous. It was so far away from her normal cheery and comforting tone of voice that it made Spike shiver. Even Rainbow took a step back.
You're accusing Gabriel of being malicious, but you have no solid evidence for it. You lied to all of us, saying that friend of yours was in the ministry when really he was an RBI agent. You're willing to murder some pony to get what you want? Is that correct? I want the princess to live. That sure is a noble goal,
The counselor answered.
but you're using it to kill some pony, Twilight. Some pony innocent, and you're sure there's no other way? There's no time, and it isn't a... He is a person, whatever he may be. And I know for a fact that Gabriel has no idea how he arrived in Equestria.
Twilight raised her voice.
I am trying to save.
Sandy did the same.
I also know he isn't the monster you're saying he is. Intensely troubled, definitely, but not a monster. It doesn't matter if he's the goodest little cult in all of Equestria.
Twilight exploded.
We don't have a choice. You always have a choice.
Sandy roared back, slamming her hoof into the ground.
Always. You really think that thing's wife is worth more than Princess Luna's?
Sandy's eyes widened and her jaw dropped.
Why, you stuck-up
A black and white stallion came skidding to a stop at arm length away from Spike with a panicked shout. His mane made him look like he'd been through a tornado, and his sprint had tinted his bone-white cheeks pink. He slid on his rear, his hoof scraping against the pavement and coming to a jerking stop on the curve. Oof!
There you are, you little snake.
Rainbow cried victoriously.
Tell me where Gabe is, or I promise ya, you're gonna be sorry.
Looking Glass ignored her, fixing his terrified, wide-eyed stare directly at Twilight. He managed a short sentence in between pants. The cult escaped. It's gone. We love Sandy Hills on this channel, baby. Oh my gosh, I love her. This is such a good scene. That was great. I love reading that. That was such a good... I love Linwood's writing. It is so dramatic, is that the word? Impactful? I don't know. Especially coming off the last section of this chapter, which broke off perfectly in line with how the fic was actually written. And, I absolutely loved it, and I hope you guys did too, and I brought it some justice. However, I would like to thank the wonderful Patreons that do let me do this. Thank you, my tier 1s, Redeemer of Dark, Jason, Chase Lemaster, Lunar Gaze, Hyperling, 8th Day of Night, Starlight Blaze, Titan Game, Dreamless Portal, and Balanced Kindness. My tier 2s, Captain Blueshadow, The Animated Ghost, Solus HKH4 aka Texture, Sword Brother and Mordred, Nocturne, DJMX 2000, Papa Lennon, Can Panzer, Elemental Wolf, and H1 Wolf King. And of course a large thank you to my Titan tiers, User 1842, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, and Maverick. And a large thank you to Silent Titan. I appreciate you guys' support so much and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.